Chainlink goes live with Arbitrum. We have a delay on the Mt. Gox dump that everyone's been watching out for. And is Congress getting ready to go to war with the Federal Reserve over the creation of CBDCs? All this and more on today's Blockchain Basement.
Bum, 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 bum. You ready for this? I'm ready. Welcome.
If you're gonna screw me, at least pull my hair.
Hell yeah. What you got?
They could start chopping off fingers. They're like, give me your seed phrase, but I don't know it.
Out to give the numbers out. And I was like, no, hang up the phone right now.
Or like when it dropped in 2020, was it like exciting?
400,000 to 600,000. The generational signals are now.
Level. So I don't even know if we're gonna get back below there. But if we do, that's kind of where we.
What's up, everybody? Welcome one, welcome all to the Blockchain Basement. Today's a special day. We have a kind of a surprise guest, Brennan, joining us here in the studio. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We also have Kelly Kellum. He was on live this morning, giving us a breakdown of kind of the markets. I want to talk to you about kind of what your opinion is. I know we've kind of bouncing ideas off each other over the past week or two about this 23.5 number that we previously were watching. So I wanted to get your take on where we are with that. And Hannah Hughes, how you doing? How's the week been going for you?
Doing good, doing great.
Doing great? We're going to be talking about our NFTs are dead. So I'm interested in Brandon and your opinion about this. Kind of scary headlines coming out. 95% of NFTs are worthless. Are they dead? We'll find out here in a little bit. But obviously, a little bit's happened in the market. Bitcoin has given back some of its upward price momentum. Just a quick look at it. We have $26,600 coming in as far as the current price. A little bit of a dip overnight. Nothing too crazy though, but it is giving back all that kind of upward action that we had over the last 7 days here on the monthly, bouncing around right there. So I'm going to be asking Kelly later on in the show about what his opinion of it is, but there's been news coming out about some delays. Mt. Gox looks like it's extending its repayment deadline by 1 year. This is the big dump that everyone's been so fearful and worried about, bringing up all the time, clickbaiting. Meaningless up in the chat, never giving up, calling for those uwus. Maybe someday they will come to a town near you. Corey Harden, what's up? Corey was called the biggest liberal on crypto Twitter last night, and it was kind of weird. I don't know how they got that. Yeah, I don't know.
Real quick, Corey stays with the Twitter engagement now. His impressions are over 1 million and his followers are like at 1,000.
He's absolutely killing it. Good to see you in the chat. Good to see you in the chat. You're tearing it up out there. But looks like in a September 21st letter, Nobaki Kobayashi, the rehabilitation trustee of the once dominant Bitcoin exchange Mt. Gox, announced that a 1-year extension, so a year from now it looks like, to the repayment deadline for the exchange's creditors, initially set for October 31st. That was going to be a scary Halloween this year, which looks like it's been avoided. Repayments are now expected to be finalized on Halloween, or just about Halloween, of 2024. That'll be after the Bitcoin halving, so that'll be interesting to see how much of an impact that has on price. Post-halving, you have things starting to heat up if we do follow the historical 4-year cycle. So,
well, I have a question for you because I did not get a chance to dig into this article. The first thing that I think about when I see this change in deadline, makes me wonder. And again, I'll speak ignorantly here. I did not dig into this article, but it's interesting how this has been delayed now a few times over the last year and a half. And it makes me wonder if the delays are somehow trying to line up to when the access to those funds getting, basically rediversified back out to the was it the debtors or the creditors, whatever it is, those individuals, is lining up to where the market will most likely be in a better position, because that's going to be post-halving. And, everybody's, I don't want to say it's not guaranteed, but highly assumed that there's a stronger possibility for the price action to be likely significantly up from where it is now, creating a bit more of a buffer if there is any selling pressure, and maybe a little bit of incentive not to sell when it gets redistributed versus now when it's low and potentially causing more selling pressure, bringing the price lower. So I'm curious what their reason was other than that.
Well, I mean, we'll read on for it, but what you're saying is exactly what we're thinking. Release it or push it back until things are looking good, and more people are likely to hold on to it for the continued upward action. It's absolutely something we've been watching out for. Looks like Mt. Gox this is just highlighting the importance of Mt. Gox. When they did go down, they were a significant player in the early days of crypto trading, handling over 70% of all blockchain trades at its peak. Under the rehabilitation plan, Mt. Gox is set to reimburse 141,000 Bitcoin, 143,000 Bitcoin cash, and a substantial 69 billion yen. However, the impact on the market may not be straightforward. Significant creators like Bitcoinica, and the Mt. Gox investment funds, which account for an estimated 20% of all claims, also play a role in market impact. Mt. Gox was basically an investment fund that's stated its intention was to hold on to their Bitcoin rather than sell it all immediately, reducing the immediate pressure. Kind of what you're talking about right there, Kelly. This is the price action before we popped right back down there. Brandon, I mean, we were talking, I want to hear a little bit about your story in crypto, because it goes back and it stems back. It sounds like you had been, in talks about selling potentially art for Bitcoin, maybe even back to 2011, right?
Yes. There's this painful moment of the past where someone offered me a large amount of Bitcoin, but I kind of needed the $1,500, and I took the $1,500, and I would be.
So, but you got to give us a ballpark here. Is this like, for anybody,
there's a lot behind that.
Price has changed a lot over the last 13 years. Yeah. So was it 10 Bitcoin? Was it 1,000 Bitcoin? Was it 10,000 Bitcoin?
It was closer to 800.
Wow.
800 Bitcoin. So that, that's, I mean, that's a big trade-off. But who would have known? Yeah. I've even talked about this today on the stream, on the BitLab stream. People see the price right now, and some people think they've missed the boat. And in a way, maybe you feel like that because the price is so high. But where we're at now, because back then there's no legacy built into it. We have 13 years now. We can see institutions coming in. We see a wide adoption for how young the asset still is, and how far now we can see true projections of where it can go. I think right now is a better risk-adjusted time to get in than it ever has been in history. And there's plenty of upside. So anybody, don't pass up the opportunity for one Bitcoin now, because you need because same argument's going to be made in 5 years, 8 years.
Yeah,
it's definitely less risky now to buy one Bitcoin than it was buying 100 in 2012.
It was much more speculative back then. I mean, people were it was an experiment. I feel like the experiment has really taken hold, and now it's this immovable object that people in traditional finance are slowly coming around to, slowly starting to acknowledge as something that just won't get away. Kind of set up for this standoff between DeFi and TradFi that I see coming down the next decade. But it's just cool that you have that, that experience all the way back then. What does it feel like? Did it feel?
Well, the funniest thing, because I have ADD, the more painful experience would have been to get that 800 Bitcoin and lose that laptop that it was on, which was more likely to happen than I would be the guy who doesn't have access to his 800 Bitcoin.
Right.
So that's way more painful than not having gotten it.
You're getting some solid compliments over here. They're saying you got a great voice like Batman. Somebody else saying, who's the Baldwin brother?
Yeah, Baldwin brother.
This is Alec Baldwin. My voice has hair on it.
Man, I mean, I don't know. And we think about Mt. Gox was a huge deal. We just looked at it, it accounted for at least about 70% of trades in Bitcoin at the time when it went down. This has been a long, ongoing process of people that got hacked that have been waiting to recuperate any degree of funds within that. Hasn't happened. It keeps moving down the line. Next year, if this does follow through and they do release it on Halloween, post-halving, I just don't think it's going to have that big of an impact. Maybe a 5% up to 10% dip on the day of. But I really don't think about, a 50% crash happening if we're post-halving, prices, moving in upward and to the right direction, which historically, if we follow the 4-year cycle, it will be that way. But I just don't think that it's going to have the immense impact that a lot of people think. When we're talking about the effect, they can do it OTC and have less of an impact on the market. It'll be interesting to see how they, kind of spread that out once they're allowed to sell it. And we also have a lot of people excited about the Fed doing a pause on their interest rate hikes yesterday. Now, obviously, we just looked at the Bitcoin graph. That Bitcoin disagreed. It had a little bit of a correction, a fall down after the news, which surprised a lot of people. But, traders are hoping for the Fed to begin cutting rates. Historically, the S&P 500 declined by an average of 23.5% over a period of 190 days from the first rate cut to the market low. We're keeping in context. We did not get a rate cut yesterday. We got a pause, likely looking at a rate cut over the next 4 to 6 months to begin cutting rates. But this is just a good visualization of what happened in 2006. Once they paused the federal fund rate interest rate hikes right here and began to actually cut, then you see the S&P 500 did retrace pretty heavily, falling back down hard. And then we highlight this in 2000, that they did their pause and then the cut here. And you again see the S&P 500 in general falling down, correcting. A lot of people are wondering, is it going to be the same thing? Are we going to just, fall back down? There's been a lot of worry on the double top that was talked about in the traditional, stock market. Kelly, is this time different? Are we going to be able to at least hold where we are, given that we're looking at potential rate cuts coming? Have we not felt that pain from these rate hikes yet? What is your opinion on all that?
Well, there's just a myriad of different things to take in consideration with everything going on with the economy and monetary policy and inflation and supply chain, all these different things we've been trying to tackle for the last 3 or 4 years. And one of the things that everybody needs to realize is when the Fed increases interest rates, it doesn't have a direct impact on the market today or tomorrow. Now, speculatively speaking, it may cause some sort of small amount of volatility that you could trade from the speculation around that event. But the true effect on the economy as a whole tends to take anywhere from 3 to 6 months for each one of those things to have an effect on monetary pressures and capital flow within the economy. So what we're seeing now, and we're seeing inflation going down in some key areas, which is what they've been looking for. It's not because of the last rate cut. Likely it's from 3 to 5 rate cuts prior to this. So the truth of the matter is, what happens once they cut rates? Say we're pausing now. There's still speculation. Will we get one more rate hike in the next 2 FOMC meetings or not? And then we get to the point where they start cutting those interest rates. And then at some point in the somewhat distant, near-term distant future, we'll get quantitative easing coming back in the market, because what happens is we have the cyclical nature of breaking things, creating monetary policy to fix the broken things. In this case, interest rate hikes basically being brought down. So you're having reductions in interest rates. And then it gets to the point where it's still not being fixed. So then you have to print money to pull the people out of the issue. So as it stands right now, historically, we see on a very regular high hit rate basis that once the pause and then the reduction in interest rates happen, it's almost always results in a new low on traditional markets. And now we have digital assets as well. So the question here is going to be, really, is there going to be a break in correlation between Bitcoin? Let's just talk about Bitcoin separately from the altcoin market. Is Bitcoin going to break correlation with the stock market if the stock market has a new low following the interest rate reductions, or will the stock market even have a new low? Because everything right now is performing so astronomically what's the word? Just nobody can really figure out why things are performing the way they are because we're not having quantitative easing. We're having tightening of restrictive monetary policies, but we're seeing partially new digital sectors and technologies drive things up like AI and tech.
NVIDIA.
But then also there's been cultural shifts. I'm not seeing anybody talk about the cultural shifts that have taken place since the global economic shutdown, March of 2020.
Absolutely.
Everybody was locked inside I was living in New York. We were inside. The only thing
you were in the thick of it.
The only thing that was open was grocery stores. Yes. That was it. You go outside. I have an electric scooter. I would drive from Times Square to Brooklyn, and this happened multiple times. I would literally, over the course of several miles, I'd see in New York City during the day, I'd see one car on the road. God. So, it has impacted different cities in different ways, but everybody, the economy shut down, people not being able to travel, people not being able to do things, and people working from home. So it's changed the workforce dynamics. It's changed this pendulum swing of everybody having to be inside and not being able to travel. And even right now where we're having restrictive monetary policies, we're seeing more travel than ever before. Yeah. Is it because people have all this extra money, or is it a pendulum swing because they're held inside? It's like, well, we better go out and travel. Let's live our best life.
Right.
It's hard to grasp what's really going on in the economy because this time is different. So we need to look at everything very patiently, and like anything, and people hate it when analysts say this, could go up, could go down, but that really is the truth right now. Practice healthy risk management and patience, number one right now on all things. But we have to account for the high likelihood that once rate cuts happen, that there will be some sort of downturn in the traditional markets, which could put pressure on digital assets.
It's a fair take. And you know what you're saying had me thinking back to March of this year when the banks started collapsing, right? And how Bitcoin reacted to the banks collapsing and their stock valuations. Like in general, like Wall Street really didn't do well at the time that the banks were collapsing. It began in March of this year. And if you look at Bitcoin's price, beginning of March was just, you had a big scare off wick from all the scariness, but then it absolutely crushed. Like Bitcoin is trading right at it went down to $20,190 right there. Absolutely crushed during the Silver Valley. It was the First Republic, just a slew of different pretty large banks went under, and Bitcoin acted in the opposite direction. I wonder if traditional finance folks or money market folks are going to notice this kind of slowdown and maybe leverage Bitcoin and blockchain investments to kind of hedge against their losses on Wall Street investments. I've heard Larry Fink kind of nudge at it that Bitcoin allocation of 1% to 2% is a great way to kind of balance out your portfolio and have a high risk asset like Bitcoin in the background making up for losses. And we did hint that when we were looking at different banks, and basically the traditional finance market, it's underwater on unrealized losses by $600 billion in the securities section. And then I believe it's right around $1.2 trillion underwater and unrealized losses in the real estate sectors and everything that's in the derivatives market. So there's a big hole in the market that I see these traditional stock brokers or these traditional finance people seeing the value of Bitcoin continuing to hold well while the market crashes. That could be the switch flip moment that we all talk about here in cryptocurrency, when traditional finance will realize that this technology is where the future is. Companies like NVIDIA and AMD are just absolutely killing it, and data is the new gold of our century, in my opinion. And I think Bitcoin's going to kind of remain that digital gold, and everything that we see beyond it, is my personal opinion, like Ethereum, are going to be used for kind of plugging into our day-to-day lives and leaving Bitcoin as the backing of that value. That's what I expect. I don't know. What is that? What do you think the future of Bitcoin will look like in 10 years from now, Brandon? Like, you were looking at it in 2011, right? As you said, it was a lot more sketchy than it is now. To be looking at Bitcoin as a hold. Do you think it's going to be around, or is it going to basically take over everything, or will it have to play along with traditional finance over the next few decades?
So I think the potential for where it could go up is a mystery, but so potentially high. But when I think about, it's not going to go to zero. I know there's a percentage chance, they say. There's the chance that it becomes like silver or gold and it gets manipulated from the outside and kind of, I mean, I remember when I was a kid and the price of gold went to like $2,000 in an ounce. And what is it now?
Like, that 2,000 an ounce.
So the big fear would be that it could be manipulated by larger entities like, BlackRock, in that they just constantly make money on making Bitcoin go from 20 to 100 back to 20. That we just stay in some zone for the infinite future. That would be, say, the worst case scenario.
Where it becomes essentially captured by BlackRock in the same situation of what it was created to fix.
And even though it, quote unquote, is decentralized, if you have enough money to buy the whole supply or existing supply, you can play a lot with that. But if every country in the world, a certain percentage of the population starts wanting some piece of a Bitcoin, supply shock demands that it go up on some level,
We've been watching the potential for the supply shock too. Like we were covering this morning, that Bitcoin supply on exchanges has hit a 6-year low. As of it sits right now, it is starting to uptick a little bit, but the exchange holdings of Bitcoin are at the lowest they've been in 6 years. So that is, a potential for, kind of increasing that supply and demand effect that we could experience when retail comes back. Another slew of headlines come out from MSNBC and all the big media corporations talking about Bitcoin when it's already, doubled or tripled where it's at right now. They're going to be getting retail in late, telling them all about it. And that's why the value in being convicted and learning when things are going bad or when you're in a bear market or an accumulation market, that's where the real money's made, because you're leaning against the tide. You're doing things that are out of the norm. Like, doing something as crazy as selling Bitcoin, this electronic computer money in 2011. But look, now he's been in it for years. You have a pretty big following here. I found you on Twitter. Make sure you go follow Brandon on his Twitter. It's at BOC Artist, right there. Featured in Time, New Yorker, The Colbert Report. My God, you've been all over the place.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Unbelievable. So go check him out. And on Twitter, we see, I'm not going to play the whole video. We just see this Linda Yaccarino, I think is how you say her name. She is hinting at payments being integrated onto Twitter, reviving the Doge momentum. And, I'm just trying to keep it reasonable with Doge. It's hard to imagine a world where it hits $1, but I wouldn't be surprised. I've seen crazier things happen. Twitter is the place that'll make it happen, though, because Elon still has that Doge symbol next to his name. And we have now Linda Yaccarino shared a video of highlighting the new features on X, basically pointing out that the uniqueness of each user, showing the variety of their interest. And basically, it's kind of putting all of your personal info and like what you search for together. Just feeling a little icky with me. This is where like the whole integrating ourselves into the digital future and economy gets a little weird. But if it's done the right way, it can be used as a tool, not for evil. So I hope it's that way. It looks like August, we remember that Elon Musk broke that they're transforming X into a crypto trading platform as the partnership with eToro. The tech billionaire has been in talks with Wall Street execs on creating an updated version of PayPal. And obviously that doesn't ring well either, because PayPal is just misinformation fines that it took in and out. But Musk still maintains the Dogecoin symbol on his profile since the rebranding of X. And looks like they've missed the discussions regarding the CEO's announcement, Linda's announcement. Musk had to respond to allegations regarding subscriptions for users on X. This is from the Daily Loud. Elon Musk says users will soon have to pay a small monthly payment for X to stop bots. And it looks like he gave some context, just highlighting his community notes, clarifying the situation. Misleading post. In a recent interview with PM of Israel, Elon stated they will introduce a lower tier pricing for premium members. There's absolutely no mention of charging everyone to use X app, which is good to see. That's a little concerning. If you had to pay just to exist on the platform, that would kind of suck. And it looks like the community's response to Musk's statement was less positive than the tech CEO probably hoped for.
But you know what? I will say absolutely, and I don't have a problem saying this. Free things, have free access to things, great. Advertising. If I'm paying for anything, do not advertise to me. I'm tired of everything I log on to. I'm like, man, this is a weird comment on this post. Oh, it's a sponsored tweet within a Twitter. It's like, I'm a paying member of the thing. Why the hell are you out? It's like double dipping on not only me paying for it, but then also my time and attention. Don't do that. Have free access, fine, but paid members should never have to. I mean, I pay for YouTube. I don't watch any. I get so distracted with ads. When I go to somebody's house now and they have on just regular cable TV, I'm amused by what the general culture of people have to put up with, because I'm like, you're sitting here watching a 30-minute show and 15 minutes of it is
it's ads. Incredible. It's incredible. It takes up most of the time.
It'll be a love story, and it cuts to a hemorrhoid commercial. You're like, just such a fractured energy of everything you do. It's like,
Wait, Hannah, are we going to be paying people for their posts on X a year from now? What do you think?
I mean, you saw they're saying that they're going to charge everybody to use Twitter.
He clarified. They're not going to charge everyone. It's just you're going to be able to have tiers of payments, so you can still use it for free, but you can have a lower tier of payment for the monthly service. So he's not charging everyone to be on there. So what that came out yesterday, that was false. He clarified.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not. I think some people will choose to pay. I still think there's going to be a large group of people that don't want to pay for social media. They don't see the benefit.
Yeah.
But I think, they've already said they're integrating payments, and I think the possibility for Doge is there, and there's a use case for it for sure. Like if they start paying, do you think they would start paying for the subscriptions in Doge instead of USD?
They could accept it. I'm not saying that it's not out of the realm for Elon and X, Twitter, I keep saying that, to accept Dogecoin or other cryptocurrencies. They're setting up the infrastructure for it. Elon helped create PayPal, the world's largest private payment processor right now. If anyone is capable of pulling this off, it's probably him, and he has the intention to do so outwardly. And eventually he's probably going to turn the whole thing into WeChat, where they have put all of your information in one spot and you're just being harvested like fish out of water because you thought about Coca-Cola last week. So it's advertising a Coca-Cola to you today. That is probably where things are headed.
The Everything app.
The Everything app. That's what it is, man. And you made me think of something. God, it slipped my mind.
Free social media?
Well, free social media, it's like, you have, so the bots are a problem, right? Like you have an actual problem with bots getting better at acting like humans online. They have more organic looking conversations and comment feeds. They, it's just, they don't mention who they're trying to scam you into at the beginning. They really walk you into it, and they're getting way better at socially engineering people into those links. So I can see the problem with the bots and trying to scrub them out by the payments requirement, but bots can set up payment subscriptions too. The companies just have to upgrade their setup process for how they scam. So it's definitely a moving target, and it's one I haven't had like a hard-sided decision on, because I see the use case for each. And I think that if they leave it so you can access it for free, but then you can pay and be a more kind of verified news source or something like that, might work in the future. But it really, we have to start voicing ourselves, we have to start voicing about it on what are these payment programs going to look like? Can they harvest data? I remember it was, I miss Brave. I miss Brave browser being a thing. The last bull market or the last market.
What happened to it?
Well, I mean, just people stopped using it. I think it still exists.
I use it.
You use it still?
Yeah.
Isn't it? I thought it was a great idea. What was you think? I mean, why did Brave kind of fall off did they not market enough? Like, where did they go wrong here?
I think there's some things that you can't do from Brave that you're like, it becomes irritating, and so you end up using a different browser where you can access that.
Is it kind of like the extensions game? Because like so many extensions are so perfectly suited for Google Chrome, for instance, but you can't use it on Brave.
Or the notion of the protection that it does keeps you from being able to participate. participate in things that are going to embed in your system forever. So like, you're like, well, I actually don't mind this embedding in me because it's more important for me to try to use this. So,
well, and I mean, the price, it's right back to where it started with. You pull up this chart. This thing was awesome in the bull market, right? Like, so I used it like crazy. Brave Attention Token. I was collecting it just for using the browser and allowing advertisements to come to me. That was the model of business I thought made a ton of sense, because why am I being harvested and my data is just, sold on the open market without any control? Rather, I can say yes or no to the information coming to me. And if I did allow the information to come to me via advertisers, I would get paid in BAT token, basic attention token. I thought it was a pretty interesting idea. This might be a freaking sleeper in the next market, honestly. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people talk about it's dead, but it reached a second higher high when Bitcoin had its higher high. It had two higher, reached an all-time high and then hit a higher high here. It's reconsolidating back down here.
It looks like almost like an exponential volatility metric compared to, because I can see exactly what the Bitcoin price would have been across this whole thing, and it tracks it almost not. It's not one for one, obviously, but there's higher volatility spikes where Bitcoin was high, and then the flat it reaches its bottom much quicker.
I mean, the damn concept just makes sense.
Yeah, I love it.
Just to make an advertiser pay you to get a chance to sell you a product worth more money. I thought it was an amazing idea. And I think that some other things like ads, it's like ticker money symbol ADS is another kind of advertising payment thing where they go in there, advertisers go in there with a pool of money to give potential customers, their advertisement, and the customers get something back from it. It might be something that comes back in the market. It's at 17 cents right now. Let's see here. It's fully circulating, 99.3%. I'll obviously have to check the rich list so I don't trigger AJ. But let's see here. Max supply, 1.5 billion. What you got?
Well, so a friend of mine back in the day who passed away, but he was meeting with Google and all these people. He created a term called the digital deal. Nick Javitovsky, and the idea was that we don't have a fair digital deal because they're trading our information and selling it,
and we get nothing.
It's like either let me be anonymous, or the counterpoint of what you were saying, let me be anonymous, or let me sell my stuff if I want to you to sell me.
Yes. It's a fair thing to ask. I think that why it's so far out of like the normal person's expectations from companies is because our data has been sold out since the Patriot Act.
Yeah, you're a product. You're a product the second you go online.
Right.
Like everything you do, you become a product. And everything you're doing is adding to the value of you being a product, and you get nothing reciprocity.
So his concept was essentially my searches should be the most private property that there is. If I'm to own any private property in the world, why wouldn't my interest in my searches or my person be?
Yeah, it's like akin to monetizing your thoughts.
Literally. Yeah. It's the questions that you ask in your mind. You're just asking Google, and then
like
somebody has
right.
all of that information. So
right.
A lot of people have all of that information, and they use it to profit off of you.
It just feels wrong.
What a concept.
It just feels wrong. I think that we've been kind of normalized and walked into this situation because we're used to Facebook openly selling and sending our data to whoever, our searches. We talk about something next to our phone, and then all of a sudden it's up on your phone. It's being advertised to you. I hope that this conversation about CBDCs is able to kind of kick open the floodgates on the need and the yearning for freedom that I know we all feel still. It's just everyone's been kind of groomed into the situation where our data is just willy-nilly. We don't mind about it. I think that it's an intrinsic right of privacy to your data for you as a person at home to have, and not just be an open book for your government or your advertisers to know exactly what you're thinking, what you're doing, what you're thinking about buying. That doesn't seem like an equal situation. We did have Congress moving forward to put a bill in front of the House of Representatives coming up here. So U.S. Congressman's bill to ban the Federal Reserve from issuing a CBDC has passed the Financial Services Committee. I do think I want to play a little bit of this excerpt. This is from Tom Emmer. I love Tom Emmer, so I always like playing and showing his videos, what he's talking about in Congress, because it matters. This is the future on the line. If we grasp it or not, what we have is a republic if you can keep it. So here we go. Let's press play. You ready for this, Owen? All right.
Thank you, Chairman McHenry. I'm extremely proud to have this legislation that, frankly, I've been working on for 3 years at least. The CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act included in your markup today. It's the first anti-central bank digital currency legislative effort introduced in the United States and for the past 2 Congresses. And we've worked with my colleagues and with stakeholder groups to update, improve, and grow support for this bill. Today, this bill has the support of 60 members of Congress and groups ranging from the Independent Community Bankers Association and American Bankers Association to Club for Growth, Heritage Action, and the Blockchain Association. We've come a long way. This bill is simple. It halts the efforts of this administrative state under President Biden from issuing a financial surveillance tool that will undermine the American way of life. Unlike decentralized cryptocurrencies, a central bank digital currency is a digital form of sovereign currency that is designed and issued by a government and transacts on a digital ledger that is controlled by that government. In short, a central bank digital currency is a government-controlled, programmable money that, if not designed to emulate cash, could give the federal government the ability to surveil and restrict Americans' transactions.
Boom. That's it.
So, you know
Period.
what? First thing that I thought about hearing that is, especially with the title of that had something to do with the Federal Reserve. Is there going to be a backdoor to something like that, being that the Federal Reserve is actually a separate institution other than the government? You know?
Yeah, like Congress can't control them because
It's like,
they're
okay,
not
yeah, we're not going to. And then the Federal Reserve issues a CBDC. It's like, this is not a government body. So it's like,
And that would be worse.
What's
The
that?
Federal Reserve issues the CBDC.
Oh yeah, I mean that
would be way worse.
It's okay. I'll put it. What Thomas said is, if this is not done correctly, if it does not emulate
We're
cash,
done.
right? If it doesn't emulate that aspect of privacy and that transactability of cash, then it can be taken away. So I think that what he said is like, if we do this in the wrong way, where we turn this into a surveillance tool, that's where we lose the American dream.
But why doesn't that make it more compelling for Bitcoin and other decentralized things?
I think it builds the case for decentralized finance.
So I mean, it feels like it's an inevitability that we will have CBDC.
I think so.
I agree
Me
too.
And so, like, why, given inevitability, I'm not saying we shouldn't celebrate all terrible things, but like, it could be good for so many other things.
Like, if it were to happen, it would give a stronger case to be like, oh, well, I better start getting into Bitcoin now because of the CBDC.
So many people
You'll see the value
who went to the
increase.
hurdle
Yes.
now are learning the curve of how to get a digital wallet and do all that. And then they're like, well, don't I want one that I actually
control, maybe?
I'm like,
Right?
as long as crypto is left alone, if they do issue CBDCs, otherwise I'm scared. Like,
You're scared?
if you can't, like, if you
Yeah, I agree.
builds the case for crypto, but like then it's like, all right, crypto better be straight. Y'all better not come for crypto after that. Like,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I talked about this a little bit this morning also. I think one of the things Bitcoin has going, I mean, there's a lot of things, but that one of the things that I think is one of the stronger cases for Bitcoin in regards to government, the U.S. government specifically, potentially trying to, regulate it down or suppress it, or actually jump on board and start empowering it. I think it's more likely that they're going to move in the direction of empowering and encouraging innovation, because the data shows the rest of the world is stepping into this sector. And if we are out of it, then we are out of control of the next top resource globally if we don't participate in it. And in a way, could be argued that there's a national security threat if we are not involved with it in a meaningful way. So I think rather than the fact that Bitcoin is phenomenal for for each individual person, for financial sovereignty, for all these things, that may actually, as beautiful as that is, and we're in a democratic republic, and that should be the reason why they want to support it. but that's not how the U.S. government works. It's not how any government works, really. And so I think the angle of national security and wanting to stay a meaningful part of the conversation in the next top resource of the world, that's going to drive them to want to be a part of being involved with it as much as possible, so they have some form of control of it as well. So
yeah,
it's a bizarre sort of digital dual world we've been stepping into. That's been been going this way since the mid '90s. You mentioned this earlier. One of the things, Mac, your friend was doing, I didn't know if you want to talk about that or not, but there was a mid-90s thing, So a lot of people think Bitcoin was something only 2009 when it came out. Well, it didn't come out of nowhere. There was things in process that were similar to this that were the stepping stones to get here, but the technology and the people were not yet ready for it. They were just getting comfortable with email in the mid-90s.
Yep.
And we didn't have the technology to have security in place with, the mechanisms in the coding language to do that. So
I like it. And I like what Brendan said about what I call the teenager syndrome, where people might see those overbearing controls coming into their lives through CBDCs, and that might create that need and that search for decentralized finance, for that sovereignty again, right? With every mushroom cloud, there is a silver lining, and that might be it. If that were to occur, basically giving people that intrinsic need to recapture their sovereignty back if it gets bad enough, but we're trying to not let it get to that point right now. And I do see CBDCs as just a tool. Just like everything else, it can be used for good. It can be used in a reasonable way of open transactions and not silencing people that are dissenting, or it can be used in the fashion that it looks like the World Economic Forum plans to use it for, where less than desirable goods are going to be tracked by the government that oversees the person and then enforced upon from there in an autonomous fashion, which would be very fast, very overbearing, and you would feel very insignificant if that time were to come. So that's why this is worth talking about right now as it approaches, because we're right in this time frame where, society as a whole is deciding how to move forward. And if we do it the right way, it can go really well, and we can bank the unbanked. We can transfer value extremely quickly. We can use that liquidity to go exactly where it needs in a pinpointed, basically automatic process to keep banking systems awake, to keep basically the FedNow system at bay, only handling its transactions internally with large institutions and leaving the person alone at home to just transmit their value. The real thing that sucks is that I don't feel like inflation is going to stop during this whole process. So the buying power of the dollars that we have right now, I do begrudgingly say are probably going to continue to decrease, which is why I basically don't stay in fiat. I either am getting it all into my house, my vehicles, or more crypto or hard iron goods. But that's just me. You know what I mean? This guy, we got a Jersey senator that apparently really likes gold. New Jersey Senator Robert Mendez is under federal investigation again after corruption probe ended in mistrial 5 years ago. So this is definitely an interesting story. Mendez in Florida, what the hell? How do you say this word? This is just ophthalmologist. Dr. Solomon Milgren was previously charged in 2015 with conspiracy. Prosecutors argued Mendez lobbied for Milgren's business interests in exchange for political donations and gifts. Those people didn't provide detail on what the investigation was about or sort of what was wrongdoing involved. But the attorney's office in Manhattan declined to comment. Mendez's Senate office referred Solomon's statement. Here's the guy looking just trustworthy as ever. Mendez is accused of abusing his office to help Milgren and had him lavish gifts, including trips on a private plane to Dominican Republic or Dominican resort and a Paris vacation. Must be nice. Here's more pictures of the guy. All this stuff they're dragging out of his house. Defense lawyers say the trips described the bribes were examples of friends vacationing together, contributions that did not control. So, I mean, like this is interesting to kind of go into. If these guys had to use a track system, this would probably been noticed. So that's one thing we're tussling with in cryptos. Do you want that ultimate privacy, or do you want an open ledger system where you can see these payoffs happen? That's something I'm kind of asking myself as I read through all of the corruption of government officials day by day. Among the gifts prosecutors say Milgren gave Mendez were flights on a private jet, private villa, 3-night stay at a luxury Paris hotel valued at around $5,000. So, just more, more corruption going on. And that on this, transaction, like Bitcoin is open. You can see where things are going from to and from. We use Etherscan to find out where money is flowing and to actually have verification of fraudulent activity. Now, Mendez and, this whole hubbub that we see with this senator and, other, people that are in public positions of power that are abusing that power, is it a question in my mind, do we want to have them put into a place where they have no transaction privacy? See, privacy is like the intrinsic right that we deserve to begin with. And once you have valid reason to question if things were done well, then you should have the right to go in and look at the history. I don't know. I still think even seeing this level of corruption, I still think that the average person, and not even just the average person, just people in general, do have a right to privacy. And I think that we should, I'm still leaning on the fact that we should defend that. I know that there's lots of corruption out there, but you have to have reasonable cause to go in and look at something that might be going awry. It's just my opinion. I don't like considering everyone guilty before actual facts come out. So
truth, you can say that again.
Yeah, that's just the way I feel. Everyone deserves a fair shake. But fool me once, fine, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. We have this, just more stuff on it. The former Deutsche Bank executive is also facing prison, 30 years in prison for crypto fraud. It looks like he was creating some fraudulent accounts at Deutsche Bank. This one was a big problem because Deutsche Bank is one of the most systemically important banks on the planet. And right now, if you remember, Credit Suisse and UBS, they're definite kind of across the street competitors to Deutsche Bank, and they're on the same level of importance across the world. And to see this bank still falling victim to internal fraud, it doesn't lend well for traditional finance. Again, calling out the question, but they had reasonable, cause for this. It looks like in a new press release, the DOJ says ex-investment banker and registered broker Rashawn Russell pleaded guilty to charges of perpetrating crypto fraud scheme and legally obtaining a credit card info. According to the government, Russell used investor funds to gamble, pay his expenses, and repay other investors. When sentenced, Russell faces 30 years behind bars and must repay, $1.5 million worth of restitution. He gathered up a lot of bit of fraud right there. $1.5 million for one guy. My God. A separate fraud case from September 2021 to June 23. Russell was found to have fraudulently obtained the information of more than 15 credit cards and other access devices that were in the name of third parties. Do you guys remember when Wells Fargo got caught creating all those false accounts?
Listen, this is something that just blows my mind away. FTX collapses. My mom calls me up. She goes, so you going to get out of Bitcoin now? Because obviously Bitcoin's a scam.
Yeah.
All right. 3 months later, we have four of the biggest banks in history collapse. I called her up, said, Mom, are you getting out of the dollar? She's like, what do you mean this is different? I'm like, it's absolutely not different in any way. It's the institution that's handling an asset, right? And mismanagement of funds, okay? That's one instance of this traditional sort of ignoramusness that's happening these days. In addition to that, you also see people talk about the scammers that are in crypto. Great. Let's talk about the $35 billion in fines JP Morgan's paid since 2000. $35 billion in fines. Now think about that. If they can pay $35 billion in fines and still be one of the, I think they are they the largest bank?
JP Morgan?
They're one of the largest banks globally.
2 or 3. I think they're 2 or 3, yeah.
So they can pay $35 billion in fines, still be one of the largest banks in the world. That's how much money they're making off all of us. I was about to say you dummies, but I have a JP Morgan Chase bank account. That's how much money they make off of us, that they can afford to lose $35 billion. Actually, they look at it as a cost benefit because they could say, okay, this is illegal, but all I'm going to get is a slap. I'm going to get a fine, but I'm making so much damn money. Let's just do this illegal shit because it doesn't matter. Our clients are dumb. And then we're also going to put out news narratives that say how bad all these scammers are in crypto. Well, you know what? I know plenty of people that have had their bank accounts hacked, their identity stolen, all this stuff before crypto ever happened. Absolutely. So what crypto is a microcosm of how the rest of the world is. Drugs that have been bought with crypto, great. How was drugs ever bought ever in the history of the world before crypto was around? Money. I mean, how much money is being held? How much money is being held in traditional banking system? Hundreds of billions of dollars from Mexican drug cartels that is supported and protected by not only those banks, but also the U.S. I'm not going to say it. I don't want to get us banned, but understand all these things are FUD narratives. Look at the fundamentals of the assets that you want to be involved with and where they are trending. The U.S. dollar has lost 90% of its buying power since 1970. The Bitcoin is only, if you look at it truly on macro, meaning on a monthly scale, Bitcoin's only ever been in a bull market.
Right.
If you look at it on a weekly, a daily scale, you'd be like, well, we've had every 3 years, we have a bear market. But if you looked at that same thing and you did it like a fractal comparison of 13 years on a monthly, and then you look at a 4-hour chart that has the same number of candles, that same period of time, you'd say, oh, that's a bull market with a push up, a small retrace, push up, small retrace. So we need to understand all these different things that are fitting into the picture of the technicals, the fundamentals, and then the absolute buffoonery shenanigans of all the rest of the world trying to suppress this because it is more efficient and a better opportunity than anything else that's ever existed. So yeah, let's talk about Wells Fargo and those scam accounts.
Absolutely, man. I mean,
you know what grinds my gears? God dang it! God dang!
I had to do it. I had to get you worked up. You know, because it sucks. We're getting screwed over. And think about the power of banks that Kelly just described. And now they're collecting these middleman fees, the transaction fees that come off of the top of credit card usage. We are fighting a very uphill battle when it comes to taking over finance at whole. We want to put our blockchain into in between and be operable and lower those fees. The banks like the fees because that's how they keep the lights on. That's how they're able to pay off these gigantic fines that they get slapped with every time they get caught with their hand in the cookie jar once again. Literally. But the other hand is still in the other cookie jar. It never leaves. So don't be fooled when you see these gigantic news corporations coming out, talking about it. And it's been interesting to see Larry Fink kind of giving up a little bit and calling out that Bitcoin has that big backing of value. But this is where the fun is because we're in this Wild West moment where the dinosaur of TradFi is trying to say that we're a fad and Bitcoin is a honey badger. It just don't care. It's coming for them regardless. And more people are waking up to it.
Did you say it's a honey badger?
Don't give it
Honey badger don't give a fuck.
It's one of my favorite weapons too.
I have one little story because I was in traditional finance last semester. Like that was my first finance class. I've told this before or like similar stories, but that professor just hated crypto. Like hated crypto. I actually got his class. It was his first day ever teaching and he decided to tell everybody that he didn't like crypto and he said no technology in the classroom and I was like, well, that's why that's how I take notes. I'm literally in a meeting right now and I'm in your class. I have to have my laptop. So I closed my laptop and I dropped the class. And then the next semester I had to retake it. So
wait. Did you see I saw a clip on Instagram or something where it was a similar situation and the professor outlawed laptops.
I'm it's 2023.
No. So a guy showed up and he brought a typewriter and he's sitting in there just click. And the guy's like, well,
I had to retake the class with the same professor because they have very limited for that course at Kennesaw. And so I ended up in his class again the semester after and he outlawed that we could have our technology. But I still had the Bitcoin sticker on my laptop and he still made a point again, crypto's not good, basically. Saying this to the whole class of college kids that are in their first finance class. And I was just kind of like whatever, you guys just
now
do your own research.
Now they're fighting ChatGPT.
And then when the banks were failing, I was in that class, when all of those articles were coming out. And I'm like, so crypto is a doozy. I'm like, what about your banks?
Yeah,
Mr. Professor, and he had no answers.
Fines Overscope every day on the screen on the stream. I think in the main live stream, it's a heck of a list of all the different fines per year that these banks are paying.
You're the customer of your bank.
I want to ask you about this, Brennan, and I know Hannah, you're big into NFTs too, so I'll run this question by her. Just kind of discuss this, get your thoughts on it. But there's a lot of FUD coming out against NFTs, and I mean, there's a lot of NFTs that are well down. Bored Ape's hanging on by a thread, but if Bored Ape comes back, now's the time to buy because that thing's absolutely low from where it was. But this came out through Watcher Guru. 95% of NFTs have a market cap of 0 Ethereum. or Ether, they say. So once upon a time, several crypto community members were pouring millions of dollars into JPEGs like apes and punks and rocks, whatever. The hype associated with NFTs fizzled out on the onset of the bear market, and no significant improvement is registered as of yet. Over the past 30 days, NFT sales on prominent blockchains like ETH, Polygon, Solana, Bitcoin, Cardano have dipped by 10% to 40%. 45%, and a couple of chains like Flow, Mythos chain were exceptions. Parallelly, the number of buyers has also been decreasing. So just in general, they're on the downturn. Less and less people are looking at them. I mean, so the big question here in degen land or in crypto is we've seen all the pain, all the crashing of the price, and the attention is gone right now, but we've seen the flow of the attention flowing back. Do you think NFTs are dead, you guys? Or Brennan, what do you think? What's the future going to look like for NFTs?
I was going to say ladies first. But
yeah, let's hear it, Hannah.
Oh, okay. Well, I was in a space on Twitter about this the other night, actually, and I mean, there's, a group of people, they're like, it's down. NFTs in general are down right now, down bad, and not as many people are talking about them. A lot of the hype has gone to like FriendTech. A lot of Twitter is talking about FriendTech, and instead of like NFT projects, a lot of people aren't releasing NFT projects right now. But I don't think they're dead. I think I see the actual use case for NFTs. So I think long term, but it's going to be about how you're like building the brand. You have to build it like a company, like be genuine and build, not a way to make money quickly. Like it's not going to work out long term.
Okay.
So there's certain founders that I believe in, and I think that others may like arise, and come steal the market from because the market's there for NFTs. Like there's a group of people that believe in them, and I think that's only going to grow. There's only going to be more people that understand the technology and come into NFTs over time. But I think the space as a whole is going to change a lot. It's going to long term.
What do you think, Brandon?
Well, I was thinking I could take Kelly's approach and go, you could turn that around and say 95% of the wealth on the traditional stock markets will be in 10 years in companies that don't exist. So it doesn't really matter so I do believe that it is down 95%, but we're seeing this massive consolidation of, we will have maybe 5 banks nationally.
Yeah.
Like all those regional banks may go away. With my feeling when I'm a traditional painter, and when I started doing NFTs, my fantasy was that it would be different than the Sotheby's Christie's and the traditional gallery where your average person could do this. But we've ended up kind of replicating the same model where 1% to 2% of people get all of the attention.
I have a comment on this as well. So one of the things people need to understand in this space is there's a lot more subcategories in the digital ecosystem than people realize. There's Bitcoin, Ethereum. I could think both kind of stand in their own categories. And we have altcoins. That's 3 buckets there. A lot of people call these things cryptocurrencies. It's done one of the most disservices to the industry as a whole. It should be crypto assets. Some of them can act as currencies sometimes, but they're crypto assets. And then NFTs, even right now, when we're mentioning NFTs, everybody's thinking immediately art. And in reality, what people need to realize over the next 15 years, somebody said it in here also, everything, not everything, but a far majority of everything in our world currently in the next 15 years is more likely going to be tokenized. McKinsey did a report recently that it's going to be a $15 to $20 trillion industry of tokenization of real world assets.
Yeah.
The tokenization of those real world assets will be via NFTs. The tokenization of private data that needs to be authenticated as unique and held privately as unique as well. Medical records, housing deeds, marriage certificates, car titles, all these things. I've had 80-something surgeries from 2 motorcycle accidents. I've been in the hospital, for months on end, casting crutches for 8 years. Why do I bring this up? Because I had an accident when I was in Thailand, and it took almost a week to get my medical records I had to get authorized to get them them. They had to be shipped. It was this whole process to get them when I was in Thailand. There's no reason in the digital age that we're in now that we can't have a unique basically online source that is only authenticated through your individualized NFT that gives you access to where you can provide, you could have those things wherever you go and not have them stored in some warehouse later somewhere that potentially also could be flooded.
Right. Or burned down.
Right. So the NFT, not even argument, but debate, I think lacks what most people realize how broad and how pervasive the NFTs are going to be throughout our culture. And when we're talking about art, I think part of the reason some of the original art that was NFTs is so valuable is because that art is what brought it to the mainstream narrative. It brought it to the zeitgeist. So it's not that The Rock is cool that we're paying $1 million for it because it's NFT. It's because The Rock and the Bored Apes and the crypto zombies. I would argue, and this is subjective, it's not great art, but when you tie in together everything that is wrapped into the conceptual idea of that art piece, it is a proof of concept of a new technology that's delivering something that only you have. So it's a proof of concept that is worth it. So this is why everybody's chasing those bandwagons of those NFTs. And much like you just said, Brendan, the far majority of them are essentially potentially will be worthless because they're chasing the dollars they see other people making. And I remember riding in an Uber 8 months ago, and the ladies, she heard I was in crypto and she goes, yeah, my son and I were making NFT and we just see there's so much money to be made. I'm like, well, what's the utility? No. So he's drawing this, like people are chasing the hype. And the truth is I think you're an artist. Right. So I think, I'm curious your thoughts on this before I have to run and go do the BitLab stream. Do you think because of the do you agree with that proof of concept? That's part one. And two, because that's been established, do you think there's going to be a large shift in where value is in NFT art? Because it's going to then shift to more dynamic, like almost, I don't want to say mimicking, but paralleling, the greats of traditional art sense where you're like, there's something really intrinsically awesome there. Because there's multiple buckets here.
So you said a lot, and I agree with 99% of it. If you think of when commercial real estate people would invest in a new shitty neighborhood in Brooklyn, they would go where the artists were.
Yeah, right.
Like artists were the first people to sort of create value out of assets that people didn't see.
Yeah, it's like Soho.
So it doesn't surprise me that the first kind of real businesses are artist-run digital assets. But I agree with you 100% that less than 1% of NFTs will be art-related in any way. And I would say most of the value, economic value of that 1% will be also concentrated in a 1% of the artists doing NFTs. Yeah. But that said, very famous artists, the newer thing now that I'm finding is that when people buy a painting, they often want an NFT
to verify it.
To verify it.
I think the use case for that too, Pudgy Penguins is a great example of this. If you do any research into their project, I only know of them because I followed the founder before he bought Pudgy Penguins. I saw him change his profile picture because he does marketing and e-commerce, and that's that's what I love, marketing and e-commerce. So I've followed Pudgy Penguins since then, but they are trying to they're also building out a toy company and building in the kids toys market, and they're doing a very great job. It's one of the best selling kids toys on Amazon already, and those came out probably 6 months ago or less. But they're also trying to have a segment that's collectibles, so they'll release 300 Pudgies in a shark suit, and they're selling out in under seconds, and that is on the blockchain. So you have a verifiable Pudgy in a shark suit, for example, and there's only 300 in existence. They sell out in under seconds, and now they're reselling on eBay for $1,000. Right. You have a way to verify that they're real because it's on the blockchain, and I think that is useful for every pair of Nike sneakers to verify that it's real, so they're not getting fakes from China and selling that to people. Having a verifiable way to verify collectibles and designer goods and art is just necessary in this day and age. And I don't think that's ever going to go away. I think it's just going to get more necessary. It's going to become more of a necessity.
So you're saying there's a chance. You're saying NFTs might make the money, but you have to buy the right ones. You have to take the risk. It's a high risk investment, which I know us in crypto are used to, but just keep that in mind. Look for companies that are building, that are staying active and relevant and growing large communities and staying involved with them. That matters. And the tokenization of assets, I loved how you brought that up. We kind of went off the rails and got into a lot of stuff, but I wanted to cover this. We'll dig into this more tomorrow. All right, I'll see ya.
Kelly.
Chainlink CCIP now live on Arbitrum with the Arbitrum 1 mainnet, built with multiple layers of decentralization. CCIP is given Arbitrum developers the unrivaled cross-chain security. So this is just more expansion of CCIP from Chainlink, making me feel just overly bullish, probably too bullish on Chainlink. I'm going to tame it down as we get closer to the halvening, but I'm going to continue to be stacking Chainlink, and probably will get a small bag of Arbitrum. I know that a lot of it's held by specific wallets, but in general, I see Arbitrum expanding. So that's all we got for today. We're gonna go set up ATB, get everything ready for the next set of shows. But you guys are awesome. Deucey does crypto, Fade and TradFi, the Deadwood, of course, C90FTW, Nicole Minnis. Oh God, yes, that name, meaningless. Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh God, I can't keep going with that comment. Unbelievable. Well, until next time, we appreciate you joining us, you guys, and take care.